It started quietly, with what looked like routine forensic work on an otherwise unremarkable property. But once investigators began testing the soil, the direction of the case changed almost instantly. Beneath the surface of the Sullivan property, forensic teams identified decomposition markers at several concealed locations, chemical indicators that only appear when organic matter breaks down over time. These markers were not scattered randomly. They appeared in specific, isolated patches, strongly suggesting deliberate placement and concealment rather than any natural process. Before we go any further, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you can get first-hand updates on this story and others as they continue to develop. As experts examined the soil in more detail, the implications became more serious. Decomposition markers such as elevated nitrogen compounds and fatty acids pointed to biological material that had broken down relatively recently. This timing closely matched the period when the children were last seen. For investigators who had been working with a wide and uncertain time frame, this discovery narrowed their focus dramatically. The property was no longer just one of many locations to check. It became central to the investigation. Excavation teams moved in carefully, documenting every change in soil texture and color. What they found reinforced the growing concern. The digging patterns were inconsistent with routine landscaping or agricultural work. Instead of clean, evenly spaced holes, the ground showed irregular pits with jagged edges and uneven depths. Some areas appeared to have been dug quickly and refilled just as hastily, with soil layers mixed out of order. Forensic specialists noted that natural disturbances, like animal burrows or erosion, leave distinct signatures. What appeared on this land did not match those patterns. Roots had been cut sharply with tools, and the soil at the base of the pits was compacted in a way that suggested repeated foot traffic. In some spots, investigators observed signs that holes had been reopened after being partially filled, indicating indecision or panic. This kind of behavior is often associated with hurried attempts to hide something under pressure. Moisture levels in the soil added another important detail. Analysis showed that the digging occurred shortly after rainfall, when the ground would have been softer and easier to work quickly. This detail helped narrow the time frame even further and aligned with other gaps investigators were already noticing in witness accounts and digital records. The land itself was now contradicting any claim that nothing out of the ordinary had taken place. Inside the home, forensic teams uncovered evidence that was not visible to the naked eye but proved just as telling. Using luminol, investigators detected microscopic traces of blood that had been carefully cleaned. The reactions appeared along baseboards, door frames, and sections of flooring, areas that suggested movement rather than a single, isolated incident. These were not the kinds of places where accidental cuts typically leave traces. DNA testing confirmed the significance of the discovery. The blood matched both children. Although the samples were degraded, likely due to cleaning efforts and time, they were still identifiable. This placed the children inside the home at a moment of injury and directly challenged earlier explanations that suggested they had simply left or disappeared elsewhere. Forensic analysts went a step further by examining blood transfer patterns. Instead of pooling in one spot, the blood appeared smeared, consistent with movement after injury. This suggested that at least one child was hurt and then moved through the home, leaving traces behind. It was a finding that shifted the investigation firmly into a forensic-driven direction, changing how every previous statement and assumption was evaluated. Attention then turned to vehicles connected to the property. One truck, in particular, became a focus after forensic examination revealed degraded child DNA mixed with soil inside the vehicle. The soil composition closely matched that of the Sullivan property, indicating transfer between the land and the truck. Investigators emphasized that this was not casual contamination. It suggested direct contact during a critical period. Botanical evidence strengthened that link. Plant fragments, pollen, and soil residue found on the vehicle were traced to a specific wooded area several kilometers away. This discovery expanded the search area and gave investigators a new location to examine. The fact that the botanical profile matched so precisely allowed authorities to connect the vehicle to that wooded site with a high degree of confidence. As attention shifted to this area, an independent delivery driver came forward with information that suddenly became crucial. He reported noticing unusual early morning activity near the woods around the same time frame investigators were now focusing on. According to his account, the activity stood out because it was out of place for that time and location. His statement was later corroborated by timeline analysis and other circumstantial evidence. Digital data then played a key role in tightening the sequence of events. Cell tower records, GPS data, and device activity revealed a critical unexplained window. Phones went inactive. Location tracking showed gaps that could not be accounted for by routine behavior. These digital blind spots lined up closely with the estimated time of the digging on the property and the suspected movement to the wooded area. Financial records added yet another layer. Purchase history showed unusual acquisitions of tools and industrial-strength cleaning supplies shortly before the children disappeared. While none of these purchases were illegal, investigators noted that the timing, quantity, and type of items were inconsistent with normal household needs. When viewed alongside the forensic evidence, these records suggested preparation and possible cleanup efforts. As investigators revisited earlier interviews, inconsistencies began to stand out more clearly. Certain statements conflicted with physical evidence, digital timelines, and witness reports. At the same time, multiple tips from different sources began pointing in the same direction. Individually, these tips might not have carried much weight, but together they reshaped investigative priorities and narrowed the focus even further. What has emerged is a case built not on speculation, but on layers of corroborated evidence. The soil revealed concealment. The digging patterns showed urgency. The blood evidence confirmed injury and movement. Vehicle and botanical findings pointed to transport between locations. Digital records narrowed the timeline, while purchase histories suggested intent and preparation. This investigation has now moved into a phase where small details carry enormous weight. Every trace, every data point, and every inconsistency is being examined in relation to the others. The picture that is forming is complex, but increasingly clear. As forensic analysis continues and investigators refine timelines, the truth is becoming harder to ignore. Whether buried beneath the ground, wiped from a surface, or hidden in data gaps, the evidence has continued to surface. And as this case develops further, those details may soon lead to answers that can no longer be denied.